Good morning and thank you for coming to Simply Jubilee. Thought it was well overdue for me to give you an update on how the garden is doing. And starting you off, the most successful place, my pepper bed. Everything in here is done just really well. If you remember, on this right hand side I have all my sweet peppers. So I've got a ton of just lipstick peppers coming in. Those can be eaten at any time, just like any sweet pepper. But they're ripe when they're red. So I'm letting those ripen up. These two on the end here were both store-bought, and they're just starting to kind of like branch out now and get other little peppers on there. But they've grown a lot more slowly than than all the ones I started from seed myself. It's Cubanelle here and California Wonder. Now, this is a California Wonder I started, and it's just starting to turn colors now. But again, while it's shorter than this plant, it's a lot more robust. And then I've got a bunch of different kind of bell varieties down there. And this is the one Hungarian wax I have in this year. And it's just starting to kind of really produce. On this side I have all my hot peppers. Lots and lots and lots of jalapenos coming in. It's a very squat plant, but it's loaded. And then I have my red hot cherries down here, which again, you can eat at any time. I could eat them like this, be nice and spicy. However, they are best when eaten when they look like this. And in here I have cayenne coming in. Again, these will turn red, but you could eat them at any time. So peppers are all doing absolutely wonderful. Now next to my peppers, I have my squash and bean bed, and then cucumbers all the way on the end. This is my very overgrown catnip that I've let grow and continue to kind of do its thing, just because it brings so many pollinators in. I've had bees over this all year, so we want that. Now my zucchini, I think this is my patty pan squash over here, and I have 2 zucchini. These have all struggled this year. This is the first year I've had to deal with something that's called a squash borer, and I'll post another video that talks about that. But it's little bugs that go into the stems and stalks of the plant and eat it from the inside out and kill everything. So they're awful, but I will tell you how I've been trying to handle those. Right here we have some teeny tiny pole beans that actually are just starting to produce. Got a couple in my pocket that I picked earlier. These big, beautiful purple, gorgeous beans. Down here I have my variety of just bush beans that are still coming in nicely. I have 2 smaller zucchini plants that are still producing, but again, the squash borers have really slowed things down. And then down here, I have cucumbers that as well are producing, but they've also been affected by the squash borers. So again, everything has just been really slowed down this year due to pests. I have some beautiful dill in here, so when I finally have enough pickles, I will be making dill pickles. And over here I have some sunflowers and a little garden friend that's just kind of hanging out for the morning and getting ready for the day. Now my idea with these sunflowers, I mentioned in an earlier video, was for the cucumbers to grow up them. And I do have some that are coming up it, so it's worked decently well. The sunflowers didn't get quite as large as I thought they would, so we'll see how effective it is. These little panels are working nicely. My cucumbers are growing up them. And on the end here, my loofah gourds are just finally starting to kind of grow. They're growing up it as well, but they haven't done a whole lot of anything yet this year. All right, and over here I have all of my tomatoes. The tomatoes are doing pretty well. On the end here are my beefsteaks. There are a few just starting to ripen, but they're really growing a little bit more slow. I believe I have another beefsteak in the middle. I actually had it labeled as a drawing a blank now. I had it labeled as something else, and it's definitely not that. On the end are my 2 cherry varieties. So this one right here is my favorite. These are jelly bean. And then I'm growing pear for the first time this year. Down below that, do have some Rosa Bianca eggplant coming in. There's one on that side as well. Eggplant have done all right this year. I've harvested a few. They just haven't gotten very large. Down here I have beefsteak. Now beefsteak and all heirlooms are known for growing crazy. They get something that's called cat face, which is when two blossoms kind of fuse together and then you get this weird mega tomato. So that's what's happening here. All right, and here I have so far what's been one of my best producers this year. This is called a Purple Russian. It's actually a Ukrainian strain, and they're pretty much ready to pick when they look like this. A lot like your Cherokees, they are considered a purple tomato, which generally just means they don't get fully red. But these have grown really tall, kind of just keep going up. And back here I have another Cherokee. So again, you can see they like to grow in all sorts of interesting shapes. They're always kind of fun to watch. And that tomato plant I had in the middle was supposed to be a zebra. Now, if you know anything about zebra tomatoes, they're yellow and they have stripes. So as soon as I saw these start to get orangey red, I knew I was dealing with something else. And I obviously have seeds that were mislabeled. Now on this side, all of these three plants on the edge here and this plant right here are all San Marzano. I like to use these for making salsas and soup, or well, yeah, soup I'll do this year too. Dicing them up and just canning them. They're kind of my favorite tomato to work with. They're just starting to ripen up. This is my one store-bought tomato that I got this year. It's a Pink Lady. It did have the first big ripe tomato, but its growth has been a lot slower than my others. Over here, they're kind of getting overtaken by my mass of sunchokes here. Or sorry, not sunchokes, my pineapple ground cherries. I have just Black Beauty eggplant, and you can see there are some in there, slowly developing. But they've been completely overtaken by this mass that are now one of my favorite things to grow, which are ground cherries. So size-wise, you can see that it's big, it's sprawling. They are absolutely amazing though. They're one of the easiest things you can grow. And if you've ever grown tomatillos, their fruit looks a lot like that, except it's ready to eat. When it looks like this, you basically just peel it and you have, it kind of looks like a gooseberry. Sweet, doesn't really taste like a tomato. It's more citrusy or tropical, I guess you could say, but absolutely delicious. These are very drought resistant. I have had some issues with potato beetles eating them, but for the most part, they've really just thrived. So it's definitely a new staple in the garden. But that's my first two areas. So I've got the three beds on the left with the peppers, the eggplant, and the tomatoes and ground cherries. And then on the right, we have the zucchini, the different types of beans and squash and cucumbers. And of course, this lovely little monarch. All right, in my final bed, I have one last giant thing of catnip that I let flower and just grow. Again, it brings in pollinators. I have some borage on the end. I have some beets down here and some onions that I haven't harvested yet, and some peas that are almost done. I have a sunflower coming in because every time those pop up from the birds dropping the seeds, I just let them thrive. These beets are ready to pick anytime. They're all pretty large. I just haven't picked them yet because I like pickling them, so I want to make sure I have enough to do that. My amaranth has done wonderfully, and down here I have what's called parsley root. So the tops of them are just like the herb that you would buy to add to stews and things like that, but they also grow an edible root, and you want it to generally grow for around 3 months. But the nice thing about the root on parsley is that you can just keep harvesting the tops off, taking pieces, they'll regrow and the root will continue to grow as well. And then you can actually leave the roots in the ground throughout the winter and just harvest them as you need. So as a zone 4 gardener who has a super short grow season, anything that I can do like that is awesome. Now this is a volunteer tomato plant from last year. It's some variety of cherry tomato. They've been delicious. I've let it kind of grow and do its thing. My oregano has not done so well. And my lemon verbena is about at the end of its life. And then in here I have a big old volunteer tomatillo from last year. My kale is still thriving. I still have plenty of rutabaga in here. I actually harvested one the other day that was only a little bit smaller than a soccer ball. It was massive. I have some little tiny carrots coming in. But other than the first two beds, which is kind of where the majority of the action is happening right now, this first bed has been the one I started first, and it's just been slowly doing its thing. And that's pretty much where we're at in terms of the beginning of August. So I will keep you updated. I will be posting a video here in the near future that talks a little bit about how I'm going to get rid of those squash borers, because I have been trying a couple different methods, and hopefully that will help some of you out, because it's definitely something I never dealt with prior to this year. It's something brand new. Got a lot of tomatoes from this. Down here actually I have bee balm that's slowly doing its thing. So I hope you enjoyed the video and hope you took something away from it, whether it was just the enjoyment of seeing a fellow gardener or ideas for your own garden. Have a wonderful day.